Greetings and welcome to the last unit of the course TALG, and in this we will kind of have a summary overview of what we have learned or stated, that is both about OBE and accreditation. And in the earlier unit we learned how to compute the attainment of POs and PSOs and close the quality loop around POs and PSOs. That was the earlier unit, and in the current unit we try to understand the essential features of OBE, writing outcomes, measurement of attainment of outcomes and continuous improvement of attainment and their role in facilitating good learning. So, we look at the entire summary of what we have done in the last 19 units. Designing and assessing educational objectives have been the concern of educators and educational psychologists right from 1960s. That means what is it that you are making the students, or rather what were the objectives of education, and then how do I ensure that it has been achieved. So, this has been the concern of educational psychologists since 60s, and it got translated into a little serious concern in 70s. Measuring the actual learning by students became the concern. Okay. But the term outcome based education was coined in 1994 by William Spady, which then was adopted by both at school level as well as higher education level and what you call accreditation bodies of several countries. Okay. So, OBE has been, the word is coined by William Spady, and everybody uses the word learning outcomes. Learning outcome is what the learner should be able to do at the end of an intended learning experience, okay, planned learning experience. It could be it could be a topic about which you are learning, or it could be a semester course, or it could be a program. So, learning outcome, that word is more generic and it applies at all levels, but at different levels we use different, we further qualify the learning outcome as program outcome, program specific outcome and so on. Now, as far as accreditation is concerned, all institutions offering general programs need to be accredited by NAAC. NAAC is National Assessment and Accreditation Council, and it is independent of UGC, but it is closely associated with UGC. And present NAAC accreditation involves 7 criteria by which the institute is evaluated. It is, mind you, it is not about the program. Let us say a university has 40 different programs, and the programs may change anywhere from music, dance to physics, chemistry and so on. So, the NAAC accreditation looks at all the programs, although they may sample in most of the cases, but besides classroom teaching it also looks at several activities of the faculty as well as the activities that you do at the institution level and how the institute is related to the rest of the society through their different kinds of programs. So, all are looked at as a part of the accreditation, and these 7 criteria capture that. And we have mentioned majority, and this accreditation is based on what you call 1000 mark. The 7 criteria have 1000 marks distributed among them, and each they have criteria and they have key indicators and they have metrics. Through that, something of the order of 100 variables you are measuring. Some are quantitative, some are qualitative, and all the quantitative metrics are evaluated automatically by a specific software tool at NAC. The qualitative metrics are evaluated by a visiting team, and they will award marks for out of something like 270, which account for qualitative metrics. And the criteria related to teaching and learning processes expect all programs first of all attain well identified program outcomes and program specific outcomes through its core courses, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So, there are several activities the students are involved, and you try to compute how these activities are implemented to attain these POs and PSOs. And another major important characteristic of accreditation is the institute has to demonstrate that it is improving continuously in the attainment of these outcomes. You may be doing satisfactorily now, but you are expected to continuously improve year to year, and that is one of the requirements of accreditation. Now, we have spent a lot of time explaining about outcomes, how to write outcomes and how do you measure these outcomes and so on. The most important thing is communicating to students at the beginning of a learning experience what they are expected to be able to do greatly improves their performance. For example, if you communicate at the beginning of a semester when you are starting with your course, you must communicate unambiguously what the students are expected to be able to do at the end of the course. If you know this is what I am expecting, it becomes easier for the student to kind of prepare himself, plan his activities and so on. And so, communicating outcomes at the beginning of the learning experience or beginning of the course is a very important part of teaching and learning. And outcomes are defined mainly at the program level and at the course level. And program level outcomes are two types: program outcomes and program specific outcomes. And program outcomes are the same across all programs offered by an institution, whether they are physics, chemistry, music, dance, literature, philosophy, anything that you talk about. The institute has one set of program outcomes, and the wording of these program outcomes is not given by any outside agency, unlike the professional courses, whereas here the university or an autonomous institution has to identify their own program outcomes. And through these program outcomes, then institution can also differentiate itself from other institutions. If there are some specific characteristics that you have depending on its location, depending on the type of programs that you are running, you can differentiate yourself by wording your program outcomes appropriately. But one thing, in an institution all programs have to attain the same set of POs. That is, you do not write one set of POs for a BA in dance and another set of POs for a BA, let us say, in politics. The program outcomes are the same. What do they represent? POs represent the graduates, the characteristics of good graduates of a program. Whereas program specific outcomes are specific to a program. Obviously, the outcomes of a BA program in music will not have the same outcomes for a BSc program in physics. So, there are program specific outcomes that you have to write for each program in an institution, and also the way you write your PSOs can also differentiate the particular program. For example, a BSc in physics given in University A need not be identical to BSc offered in University B. That is what it is. How are they different? Their differences are reflected through these program specific outcomes. And we look at number of POs and PSOs. How many POs should you write? Whereas, as I said, in the case of professional programs, the accrediting agency will write, you have to just accept them. Whereas here, many institutions and associations connected with higher education programs have identified something like 6 to 12 POs. If you look at the universities across the world and find out what kind of POs they are addressing, you will find anywhere from 6 to 12. The program outcomes addressed by a university or an autonomous institution has been there across the world, but thinking of POs for a UG program is something that is very new in India. That is the reason why both the institute and the faculty will have to get adjusted to identifying the characteristics of good graduates and then decide what exactly they want to implement. For example, as it is very new, this experience is new, instead of writing elaborately too many of them, you can pick something like 7 out of the 12 that were presented to you in the course, and if necessary, if you feel like, reword them. The statements can be reworded to suit your institution. Okay, but finally, when they are finalized, you are not going to change it every other day. All the faculty will have to believe in them, and they have to work towards making or facilitating the students to attain these program outcomes by the end of a 3-year or 4-year program. Whereas, when it comes to PSOs, you can only write 2 to 4, not more than that. So, at the level of program, now you have POs and PSOs. If you have 7 POs and let us say you have 4 PSOs, so you have 11 outcomes at the program level, and you have to establish that you have attained these 11 outcomes. Coming to course outcomes, they represent what the student should be able to do at the end of a course. And COs are to be written in the framework of revised Bloom taxonomy of cognitive domain, and we have presented Peirce Gray taxonomies of affective and psychomotor domains. Especially you have let us say a dance program or a physical education program. So, many courses have outcomes which are strongly related to psychomotor domain, and some of them in some programs the affective domain also plays a dominant role. So, the challenge here is, how do I write my course outcomes in all the 3 domains, relevant domains, and make sure that and we have to measure to what extent they have been attained. So, assessment plays a very important role. Now, how do we write the CO? We have presented a particular mechanism. A CO in cognitive domain has 4 elements potentially: action, knowledge elements, condition and criteria, and condition and criteria are optional. Okay. And if you write in this structure, it will become convenient to discuss with your peers as well as to the stakeholders what exactly you are making your students attain. And you should also remember, writing COs should not be looked as a chore. Even if you have taught some course for a long time, I can assure you from experience that writing good set of course outcomes is a long and iterative process, and preferably it should be done along with the one or two for your colleagues who are familiar with the particular course. So, writing good course outcomes is the start of all outcome based education. So, please take care of or first of all believe in the importance of the COs and spend time and your effort in writing good course outcomes. We have given you some samples. So, please follow with your colleagues. And we require, because we require to measure to what extent a CO has been attained, towards that we tag each CO. For example, how many COs are there to start with? We say something like for a 3 to 4 credits we require about 6, it could be plus or minus, but not too much plus or minus. Okay. And my personal preference will be 6 to 8 COs will capture a 3 to 4 credit course very well. Each CO should be tagged with the number of class sessions that you are planning to use or number of laboratory or field hours of activity. You write a CO and prepare a table as we have indicated and write the number of sessions that you take. And also you tag the CO with the PEOs and PSOs it addresses. And the knowledge cognitive level is characterized by the action verb that you use at the beginning of the CO and the knowledge categories, which are the knowledge elements that you are actually associating with the CO. So, if you tag with all this, it will become easy for you to compute the attainments as well as to plan the assessment very well. And sometimes, because when you look at the entire program, you may find there are some gaps in attaining certain POs, then you may want certain course to attain a pre-selected POs. It may happen in a few cases, but the concerned teacher should take that into account, that it becomes necessary to write COs to address a pre-selected set of POs. So, writing a good CO is the first step, and writing assessment items for all summative instruments in alignment with COs should follow. First of all, we are mainly concerned with summative assessment instruments. They can be class tests, class assignments or end of the semester examination and so on. And if the assessment is not in alignment with COs, then it is not really whatever you have written as COs is meaningless, because you are asking questions not really speaking aligned with the COs. And in making sure that this alignment takes place, the taxonomy tables can help, which we have demonstrated. And tag the assessment items with COs, cognitive levels and the marks allocated, because for attainment you require all these three. And once you have that, instruction should be designed and implemented to prepare students perform well in the assignments and tests and examinations. So, the entire instruction is done to prepare the students to perform well in all the assessment instruments. That is the goal. Then only you are giving them a good grade. So, the grade is synonymous with your grades are synonymous with good learning. So, if you have designed your course well, then getting more marks is equivalent to learning better. That is the one. So, there should never be a statement like you should not focus on examinations and you should focus only on learning. These two should be the same, and that is in the hands of the teacher. And having done that, what do? We now close the loop, quality loop around COs. There can be several. First of all, you have to set the target for attainment of COs, because you cannot say I will attain 100% of the CO. So, you set some targets, and generally these targets are related to the average performance of the students. And you set the targets for each CO, then use the performance in CIE, that is continuous internal evaluation, and semester end examination to measure the attainment of COs. We have shown you and how to go about doing it, and this process is not unique, and how you actually set the targets and how do you relate the performance of the student to the attainment of CO, these are all decided at the institution level. That means all programs should follow the same process. And then you have target, you have actually measured the performance, and then you measure the attainment of after measuring the attainment, you also determine what is the attainment gap. Once you identify the gap, what do you want to do? Next time the course is offered, I want to make some modifications to the way the course is conducted, so that the gaps are reduced. That means the average performance of my students in this course is improving continuously. So, this is how you close the quality of the loop around COs. Now, a similar exercise you do it around POs as well. Once again, even at PO level, there are several ways of setting targets for attainment of POs, and then set attainment target for each PO, measure the attainment of POs from attainments of all core courses and activities. There is a difference between attainment of COs at a course level and POs at the program level. POs are defined at the program level. For example, a program may have as many as, let us say, 25-30 courses. That means you are clubbing or integrating the attainments of all this to determine to what extent the POs have been attained. And having measured that, you again determine the attainment gap, and then you close the loop of reducing the attainment gap by including activities for the next batch of students, so that you are closing the attainment gaps. That is how you close the quality loop around POs as well. So, thank you for participating in this course, and happy teaching and learning to all the participants. Thank you very much.